Good afternoon, everyone. It is David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with a very detailed tropical weather outlook for Thursday, July the 20th, 2023 at 2:55 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. If you're watching this from the West Coast, if you're watching this from the East Coast, we're going to be dialing very deep or diving extremely deep into the tropics because we have a lot of new important data, pretty urgent data that we need to look at, we need to discuss because we could be looking at a very, very troubling Atlantic hurricane season ahead. So taking a look at the Saharan dust map here provided by the University of Wisconsin that makes these images possible. Yep, you can see a little bit of Saharan dust out there in the Atlantic, but I'll tell you what, compared to last year, this is nothing. This is nothing at all. We're seeing only yellows and oranges. Where are our pinks? Where are our deep red colors? We're just not seeing a lot of it this time of the year, and that is a problem because that just means the waters in the Atlantic are only going to get warmer, more moisture in the atmosphere, preventing that dust from drifting further to the west. And these tropical waves coming off of Africa are able to tap into more moisture. So we can see here, not a lot of Saharan dust at all coming off of Africa. And I'm telling you folks, wait until August. It's coming. And we all know it is because the climatology, the amount of heat that is being stored in the ocean really is a telltale sign of what might be coming. Just because it's quiet now, just remember, climatological always wins over the actual. And we're not supposed to have a lot of activity this time of the year. It usually comes in late August through September when things really ramp up. So here's Tropical Storm Dawn at 50-mile-an-hour winds right now. And when we click on this, see what I mean? Well, it's going out towards the northwest, but it has just been hanging about here. It's been just doing kind of this. Now it's going to finally go out and get caught up in the Maritimes. Very unusual for a system to do that, but it's all about ridges and troughs that direct these storms, and it's just been in a complicated weather pattern where a ridge tries to build this thing, the dawn moves west, then a trough moves through, then the system moves east, and then it kind of shifts all over about. This is going to remain a tropical storm all the way through the weekend, so if you have any shipping interest, I wanted to make sure that I am not cursing. I mean, if I wanted to, I could, but I'm not going to. So I said shipping interest, S-H-I-P, if that clarified things. Sometimes the mic doesn't pick up certain words very well, so I wanted to kind of clarify that. So any shipping interests, yeah, just be aware of this. Strong winds, heavy rainfall, some high surf, so some rough seas out there with this. Maybe even some swells that may head towards Bermuda, maybe eventually onto the east coast of the U.S. But otherwise, this is too far to cause any impacts and will be a fish storm and will turn harmlessly out to sea or will remain over the open waters. But it is adding up ace points. It is adding up on our list of named storms. And we're up to 5 already, excluding the subtropical unnamed storm in January. If we did, this would be Emily. But now it's Dawn because we didn't have that system be named in January. So hopefully that makes sense. 50-mile-an-hour winds, and this is on its way of becoming a stronger tropical storm by tonight. Let's look at the Eastern Pacific, 60% chance of that system. This is Invest 95E, something like that. It is 95E. Okay, I got it correctly. It's right there in front of me. EP95. Okay, that makes sense. This is also not going to impact anyone. It's going to stay out in the middle of the ocean, but it has a 60% chance of tropical formation. And hey, look, there's our disturbance. The remnants, or really nothing left with Calvin there. 0% chance of any formation. Got torn up when it passed right to the south of the islands. Another way that Hawaii can protect itself is because the island chain, the mountains are tall, can really disrupt the flow of wind. And similar to the Hispaniola area, can also get disrupted. So good news there. Hawaii kind of tore that system into smithereens. So Kelvin is no longer a system anymore. And we're just watching really the Atlantic as far as our side of the world goes. More so on the western side of the world in a couple of days, because we might have a huge uptick in typhoon activity in the western pack of the Pacific. So now that we talked about the current tropics, it's a good idea that we really focus on these sea surface temperatures. I mean, that's why I'm doing these discussions also, because of how warm the Gulf of Mexico is, how warm the Caribbean is. I mean, this is just uncharted territory right now. And it's only the 20th of July. I mean, we still have an entire month, maybe a little more than that, before we really get going on the Atlantic hurricane season. And that usually is the second, maybe the last week of August. So right now, sea surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico are absolutely concerning. I mean, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, wow, that is warm for this time of the year. Just south, off the coast of Louisiana, water temperatures are in the 90s. Okay, we're also seeing 90-degree report here right off the coast of Tampa Bay, Cape Coral, or Cape Coral, something like that. Extremely warm waters. I mean, come on. I mean, if I'll better explain this when we get to the total upper ocean heat content, but wow, these waters are really concerning. 88, 87, 82. I mean, for one thing, you need sea surface temperatures warmer than 80 degrees Fahrenheit to even get a major hurricane in itself. 90 degrees is only going to add extra fuel, more moisture, and more latent heat release for these systems. And I'm telling you, if we get a named system in the Gulf of Mexico, it will not end well at all if the conditions are favorable enough. So here's a look at the entire Atlantic basin, and I'll tell you what, even so this might not seem a whole lot to you, like, oh, 26 degrees, that's still kind of far south. No, it's not. It is pretty far north. I mean, our 26-degree isotherm, that's 80 degrees Fahrenheit, should be somewhere down in here for July standards. I mean, that is really far north. And that is why we have dawn that is over here remaining really intense. Just imagining if dawn was down here, how stronger it would probably be under the favorable environment. So sea surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico, and look at this, even in the Bahamas, running anywhere between 31 to 33 Celsius, close to 34 Celsius. That is low 90s Fahrenheit with sea surface temperature. That is bathtub warm, hot tub warm water. And I'll tell you, the waters down here are so warm that, I mean, people are strolling to go to the beaches because of how warm the waters are. And not only that, the corals, coral reefs down here are bleaching substantially. They cannot adapt to these warm waters very easily. And so that really rings a bell when you see that happen. So very warm, into discussion here. Very warm, or long story short, I should say, very warm sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, well ahead of normal. In fact, so far ahead of normal that I'm going to show you a post here from Ben Knoll in a little bit that illustrates that. We are seeing one of the warmest July sea surface temperature anomalies ever on record. The third or second warmest it is, and it's all because of this right here. Look at this. Is from CycloneWX.com or Alex Breham. I mean, you got to look at it for yourself. Sea surface temperatures at least 2 Celsius above the long-term average. That's bare minimum. I mean, some of these anomalies right off the coast of, say, Africa, off the Cabo Verde Islands, I mean, that is getting close there to 4 degrees Celsius above normal. I mean, 4 Celsius above normal. So if we go back to this map right here, so let me go right here. These waters right up here to the north should be roughly about 22 even 21 degrees Celsius. I mean, we're not supposed to have sea surface temperatures 28 or 29 Celsius. That is just alarming. So you can see how that really adds up off the coast of Africa. While that's a small area, though, of the Atlantic, seeing sea surface temperatures this warm, it adds more fuel to the fire. These tropical waves coming off of Africa, interacting with the Cabo Verde waters there, or Cape Verde waters, or the Cape Verde season, really is telling of what is to come. Really warm up here. Also, look it up here. Water temperatures in the northwestern Atlantic are running more than 8 degrees Celsius above normal. I found a specific plot on Weatherbell. Some of these waters right here locally are running almost 15 Celsius above the long-term average. I mean, that is uncharted. That is historic in a lot of sense. I mean, I'm telling you, folks, when these waters warm up more and we get any named storms that ride up the coast and go out this way and kind of curve out, there's going to be a lot of problems along the coast. A lot of destruction, lots of flooding perhaps, lots of heavy rainfall, similar to Isaias, Hurricane Sandy. You know those two named storms, very highly impactful systems. And Isaias was only a tropical storm when it went pretty far north here along the Nova Scotia coast. But yet, it was a very costly system. All right, so upper ocean heat content. This is alarming. This is from 2020, by the way, okay? Wait until you see 2023 of the same date, okay? So this is how much ocean heat content is being stored in the ocean, okay? And so when we draw this lineup right in here, see this? You can see where water temperatures are sufficiently enough to give way to tropical storms or hurricanes. Down here at the time of 2020, again, this was the most busiest, most destructive Atlantic hurricane season ever recorded. One of the more destructive ones. I don't think it ranks the top one on ACE producing, but I'm telling you, this right here gave us that type of season. Now let's take a look at with what 2023 looks like. Get ready, folks. I'm going to spoil you here. Look at this. Look at how much warmer the Gulf waters are. Look at how much upper ocean heat content is down here in the northwestern Caribbean, in the Gulf of Mexico, and wow. Look at the extension out here. We're already getting upper ocean heat content all the way up to 40 degrees north in latitude already, where it shouldn't even be that way because our waters are so far above normal. And look at how much further north this actually is. So what I'm telling you is the entire Atlantic, so to speak, right now is ready to go. It's on a ticking time bomb at this point. When things line up, you better hope you're not in harm's way. That's all I gotta say. So now, this is a new map that I don't really show because it can be misinterpreted. It can be confusing to look at. But I want to make this clear with you all. I'm going to do my best at explaining this as much as I can. Okay? So I want you guys to open up those ears as good as you can. Even do this if you have to, so you can better hear me on those headphones or on a speaker device like an iPhone. So what this is showing us, this is the potential, okay, based on upper ocean heat content, based on sea surface temperatures. There's other factors that get involved here. But this is basically showing us if everything was perfect, if there was no shear at all, very high upper ocean heat content, very warm sea surface temperatures, lots of moisture in the atmosphere, this is what it would equal to. Okay, so just thinking about that, we have shear now, we have dry air that is in place. So things are not favorable. But imagining if everything was just perfect, everything came into a hurricane's favor, and a hurricane got its way, like, oh, there's no shear, I'm going to intensify. This is what we would get. Okay, so again, I'll repeat that again. This is the potential and not the actual. This does not mean we will have a Cat 5 out here. This does not mean we will have a Cat 4 over here or whatnot. All right, this is just showing us if everything came together perfectly, this is what could end up happening to a hurricane. So we can see the entire central and southern Atlantic right out over here, anywhere up to an H4 and an H5. And this means if things came together, these sea surface temperatures, upper ocean heat content would support a violent hurricane, a category 5 or greater. Okay, and you saw Ian, you saw how destructive Ian was. Cat 5 hurricane hitting basically near Tampa, Florida. A lot of damage was done. That was a Cat 5. Look at the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, off the charts here in some sense. Way up there. Could support, again, if everything lined up, like, you put layers of on a lasagna, you make the perfect lasagna, you add all these layers on. I mean, the Gulf could support winds that are well over 165 knots, even 175 knots. That would be absolutely ground-shattering, mind-boggling, absolutely catastrophic. Violent, full-fledged hurricane if things came together. If we had another Laura, another Michael, another Harvey, another Ian that went through here, a Katrina kind of thing, wow. You better not be in harm's way at all, because, again, everything, if it came together, ooh, boy, you better hope it doesn't, okay? That's all I gotta say. All right, so that's that map. So I hope that clears out a lot of the confusion. I know a lot of people don't do well explaining this very much. I try my best at making sure you all understand very much. Again, that is, considering if everything was favorable. That's sheer upward motion, sea surface temperatures, upper ocean heat content, and everything. Okay, the atmosphere has to cooperate in correlate or in coefficient with the sea surface. We know that's favorable, but we're just waiting for the atmosphere to respond and get favorable. So now we're going to be looking at sea surface temperatures since 2005, and why I show you all this is we're looking at what gave us what. Okay, so we know 2005 was the most well, as far as ACE producing or ACE points, it was the most active Atlantic hurricane season known to man, never seen before. 2020 came in second place as far as ACE producing at ACE points, but fortunately, or unfortunately, I should say, it had the more named storms than 2005 did. All right, so what did it look like back then in 2005? And we're looking at these two boxes right here. I'm going to box these in. What did the Atlantic look like? All right, we know we had somewhat above average sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic. I know down here, roughly about a degree or so above normal. Our El Nino wasn't there, okay? So correlating that, it's kind of even in two different basins. Let's look at 2017. Okay, so when we look at 2017, that is also a very big year. Okay, we had Maria, we had Irma. Okay, I got myself correct on that. See, all these name storms, I mean, can be kind of confusing. But Irma Maria formed that year. We know how bad that was, especially Irma and Maria just tore right through the Caribbean. Okay, 2017. Here's 2020. One of the most named storms ever recorded in the Atlantic. And that year, barely, weak La Nina in a way, with a really warm Atlantic. Now, nothing compares those years to with what I'm about to show you. 2023, July the 19th. Man, oh livin'. Holy moly, I should say. I mean, wow. That's all I gotta say. Plain on wow. I mean, not the fact that we have El Nino out there, but look at how warm the Atlantic is. This is why we may have a really, really busy season, despite the El Nino that is trying to do its part in becoming more dominant, more bigger. But it might be too late, because if you think about this, let's just pretend we had a 1995, right? If we go back to that, most of the Atlantic was fairly below average. I mean, the main development region was somewhat below average. The Caribbean was below average. The North Atlantic was below average. Look at the Enzo, below average also, a weak-ish La Nina. It's the opposite. Two basins are very warm. So it's almost like the atmosphere is responding to an to a La Nina. Okay? Because we have a warm Enzo. We also have a historically warm speaking Atlantic. So that is why, even despite El Nino, and a couple of comments in my last video are like, come on, dude, El Nino's going to win. It's going to tear up storms. We're not going to see hardly any named storms this year. You're wrong, because look at what we got. The Atlantic is extremely warm, and it's almost like 1995, but only on the other side of the scale. Below average in two basins, well above average in two basins this year. So this kind of, let's tie this into now Ben Knoll. I really like what Ben Knoll has to say during the Atlantic hurricane season. He also keeps you all updated on the Hudson Valley as well. So really good guy to follow on Twitter. There will be a link in the description leading to his Twitter page. So this is, I'm just going to skip this portion and come down here. The main development region, a breeding ground for hurricanes, has reached an average temperature of 28.2 Celsius. That is 2.2 Celsius above 26 degrees, or 80 degrees Fahrenheit, needed for major hurricanes. And I'm telling you, folks, we're well ahead of that. Okay, and it's only late July, mid-ish late July. Sea surface temperatures don't peak usually until mid-September. Okay, so this is really, this is scary. Okay, I don't like using those type of words very much in my videos, and I don't like to hype up things unless it really needs to be hyped up, all right? I'm not doing this to get views. I'm not doing this to get your guys' attention, but I'm doing this because of what I'm seeing could really mean a big season ahead. And you all know how big Ian was. It only takes uno lato, one named storm, to do its job at destroying a lot of people's lives. So only 2005 and 2010 had warmer sea surface temperatures than the MDR in July. Both of those years went on to feature lots of hurricane activity. Okay. Oh, does 2005 ring a bell? Does 2010? Let's look back at this. 21 named storms in 2010 with an ACE point of 165. Ha! We had Igor and Thomas that were very destructive systems, right? Remember that season, 2005. Let's see. We had several category, or a few category 5 hurricanes. Wilma reaching groundbreaking, jaw-breaking wind speeds, an ACE producing of 250.13 ACE points. That is absolutely historic on a ACE point perspective. Okay, so what he's trying to say is that this season may not be any different than those two seasons. We're probably going to look at 21 to perhaps even 28 named storms. 28 probably kind of stretching it a little bit. But all you need to know is, busy or not, 15 named storms is above normal all the way up beyond that. Okay, we might have 15 named storms, but we may have 28 named storms. It won't matter. We're going to see a busy season, and it's going to be probably above average. But it could also be below average, but really intense hurricanes too. So now, when we look at the Atlantic, and I'm going to kind of zoom in on this just a little bit so you all can see. So when do we typically see a tropical storm or a named storm, hurricane or major hurricane? I mean, we typically don't see our second named storm until July the 17th, our third named storm until August the 3rd. So we're ahead of normal. We are seeing our third named storm already, and come on, we're ahead of August 3rd. So we're already above normal as far as the number of named storms right now at this given point. Okay, and it really ramps up in late August. Our typical average point of a hurricane in the Atlantic usually occurs, or our first hurricane is not until August the 11th and August the 26th. The average major hurricane formation is not until usually September the 1st. So we are not supposed to have hurricanes this time of the year, nor major hurricanes. We're not supposed to have three named storms this time of the year. Oh, wait. Oh, no, 4 named storms. Sorry, I'm kind of... I don't know how you explain it. So, what I'm saying is, we're ahead of normal, okay, and we're not supposed to have 4 named storms, so we're nearly a month ahead of normal as far as the activity in the tropics. So, where are we, you might ask? Kind of the map, kind of the treasury map from the Pirates of the Caribbean. Where are we? X marks the spot, and actually, for the heck of it, we're going to put an X here just to kind of go with what I was just iterating on. If I can actually type here, is it going to work? Actually, it works. So we are right about here. Okay, I'm going to draw an arrow. So we're right about in... Oh, wait, that's a fat arrow. Oh my gosh, it's a fat arrow. My gosh, David, draw better. Come on. So we're right about in here, okay? Look at, compared to where we might end up getting, or where we will end up getting by the end of August into September. We have a long hike to go, folks. So just because it's quiet now, it is supposed to be calm and relaxing in the tropical Atlantic. The shear is below average right now in the tropical Atlantic. The Caribbean has also below average or near average wind shear. So nothing different with that. If we already were starting to see El Nino impacting the Atlantic with a lot of shear, we would see the shear more up kind of like this. Okay, it would be more far above normal. Look at what May brought. Look how far the shear was above normal for a while. The entire month of May actually had shear well above normal. And that's when, strangely enough, El Nino was kind of impacting the atmosphere a little bit. But look at what has happened. So it's really dwindled a lot in the Caribbean. So that means I do think the Caribbean may not necessarily see a lot of activity, but the MDR, the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the Bahamas, the North Atlantic, the Western Atlantic, gonna be in big trouble, I think. So now, as far as the accumulated ACE plot, climatological speaking, from 1951 to 2022, we are ahead of normal. We are in 12th place, 12 out of 73. Okay, and if we kind of look back at this, some of the more busy seasons. So if we actually look at our reference here. Let's see here. Let's go back to, 1995. That had 21 named storms, 227 ACE on the producer for the Atlantic. So if we go back and look at that for a second, 1995. Where is 19? Oh yeah, we're right there. We're not far below 1995 for this time in the period. Okay. So that means we are on par to have a very busy season. And remember, if our standard deviation stays up here, so let's just say we have a season that looks kind of like this, right? This is where we would end up being, probably 160 ACE points. That's what the Colorado State University is somewhat predicting. That's what some agencies are predicting too. Okay, that's above normal. Average is over here. Okay, this is above normal. This is historic up here. Okay, if we see anything like up here, that's worrying. Okay, but I don't think we will. All right, I gotta move on, or else this video is gonna be 50 minutes long. All right, so here's a look at the precipitation anomaly. This is new. This is also on CycloneWX.com. Alex Borham again, that makes these maps possible for the public to see. Link in the description. So this is very concerning. Okay, this is for August 2023. Look at the date up here. See that? The date is all up here. I boxed it so you can't miss it. And so this is what we're looking at down here. All of these above normal anomalies. Above average precipitation means what? More tropical waves, more heavy rainfall. What does that, could that mean? More potential for hurricanes, major hurricanes to develop. Okay? Tropical waves are seedlings, kind of like a little seed. Okay? And then when you add more moisture, it grows and grows. And if the conditions are perfect, we can get these systems to be quite violent. So we can see above average precipitation. Not only that, but look at where a lot of us live in Florida, in the Bahamas, above average precipitation likely. Let's go into September, the peak of hurricane season. Yeah, this is very, very telling right here. Well above average. A lot of the West African monsoon going to be very active this year. We're already seeing a lot of upward motion, a lot of thunderstorm activity. And again, that's the breeding ground for these systems coming off of Africa, interacting with these warm waters. Might be somewhat below average over here in the Caribbean, but not far to the north, like the Gulf of Mexico and all throughout here. Be a very, very rough time ahead. Okay, for October, again, still above average precipitation, tropical activity perhaps over the northwestern Caribbean. Look at this. You can see more above average anomalous happening over there across, like I said, over the central Atlantic, and that continues all the way through November. Maybe the Gulf of Mexico could get impacted by late season development as well. All right, so I want to get through this rather quickly. So let's go forward here. This is the Euro model. Again, our system down here, yes, that's the 20% chance that the NHC has. Right there, and that's headed right towards the islands, okay? Right towards the Lesser and Greater Antilles, or Lesser Antilles, I should say. And yeah, that's from the Euro. There is Tropical Storm Dawn up here. Weak ridge in the atmosphere, so that's why water temperatures are warming up. And yeah, right there, we can see it well highlighted there on the Euro. This is the vorticity. This is the amount of spin in the atmosphere. And going forward, yep, there's another tropical wave that forms here. Another very strong tropical wave that forms here. And maybe another one that tries to get going. So, yeah, what I'm telling you all, this is July 30th, and I've been forecasting this for a while. I think that last few days, maybe last week, we're going to have a really busy outcome here. A lot of tropical waves, more potential for named storms to form in the Atlantic. All right, the GFS is not fully rendered yet. It only goes out to 204 hours, but it also shows that same system. Look at that. Right there, that little nobulous, a close contour, so maybe a depression at the very most at this point. Another tropical wave off of Africa. Weak ridge, weak Bermuda high, not very strong to give us a trade winds and Saharan dust. And that's day 5. By the way, this would be Wednesday next week, July the 26th, when this moves over the Caribbean. And it falls apart eventually because, of course, things get torn up. But here's another tropical wave right here coming off, or in the main development region. We're going to get another tropical wave coming off of Africa. And it's only the 29th here, folks, by this period on the GFS model. So we really got to start opening those eyes a little more. And I got to start making more of these videos as we get near the middle of August. At least we're probably going to be updating almost every day in August if there's activity going on. All right, so there's other signs that we can look at for a busy season, and that is the CHI, or Convective Helicity Index, how much velocity potential. So the green colors indicate more upward motion in the atmosphere, right? So thunderstorms, heavy rainfall typically usually occurs, lower sea level pressure, more sinking here over Africa right now. That's why things are not completely favorable. We're seeing some inhibitors, dry air, that SAL, some Saharan air that is coming off of Africa. But the pattern is changing. This is through July the 25th. This is through July the 30th. Yeah, look at that upward motion in the Atlantic here. Yep, rising cell going to be moving into the basin. And then by from July the 30th through August the 4th, yep, upward motion here over Africa, some upward motion over the much of the Atlantic. So, yeah, I think things are going to turn more busier, more favorable for these waves when they come off of Africa. They could develop quite quickly into tropical storms or hurricanes. And yes, we have July could be known for at least one major hurricane in rare occasions. And yeah, we really got to watch this quite closely. All right, folks, man, that was a 35-minute discussion, probably 37 minutes. That is going to do it with this video. If you did enjoy today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. A lot of you absolutely love these discussions, and I want to thank you all to watching these long videos. I know it's a lot out of your time, but there's also a lot of information that I have to talk about. All right, but thank you all for watching this video. I'll be back again with more updates with the weather across the United States. We cannot forget about our loving friends that live across the 48 or the lower 48 here, with more rainfall and more storms ahead. All right, share, like, and subscribe, and I'll be back in the office tomorrow.